Today, we're diving into one of the most pivotal stories ever told, God's call to a man named Abram. We're going to break down the incredible promise at the heart of that call and what it tells us about the very nature of faith. I mean, just pause on that for a second. It's a crazy question, right? But this is the exact radical proposition at the heart of our story. It's a demand to leave everything comfortable, everything familiar, for a future that's based on absolutely nothing more than a promise. So our story kicks off with Abram. He's 75 years old, living in a place that's pretty far removed from God. And, he isn't out there looking for some big divine encounter, but one finds him anyway. This isn't a story about a man's search for God. It's about God taking that first step. God asks him to cut ties with the three things that literally defined who you were in the ancient world. Your country, that's your geography, your place on the map. Your kindred, that's your entire social safety net. Your father's house, well, that was your identity, your name, your whole inheritance. God was essentially asking him to become a nobody. Now, you'd think a command this huge would sound harsh, but here's where it gets really fascinating. The original Hebrew, lech lecha, has this incredible twist. It doesn't just mean go, it literally means go for yourself. So the command itself has this hidden promise baked right in. This insane journey of abandoning everything is actually the path to finding your true self. So what's on the other side of this impossible demand? What's the trade-off? Well, in exchange for everything Abram is giving up, God offers him, everything in return through this staggering sevenfold promise that is going to completely reshape history. And here they are. You've got land, a whole nation, a legacy, even a global purpose. But just listen to the language here. I will. I will. I will. The message is crystal clear. The success of this whole thing depends entirely on God's power, not on anything Abram can do. This really lays out the balance perfectly, doesn't it? On one side, you have Abram's simple, single act of obedience. So Abram went. That's it. And on the other, you have God's massive 7-part promise. It's just an incredible contrast, and it's the engine that drives this entire story. But here's the thing about promises. They take time to be fulfilled. And for Abram, the years just started to drag on. He was getting older, his wife Sarai couldn't have children, and that key promise, a great nation coming from his own family, was starting to look, impossible. And what's so powerful is that Abram doesn't just suffer in silence. He takes his doubt, his anxiety, and he brings it directly to God. Now, this isn't the act of someone who's losing faith. It's the sign of a real, kind of messy, but dynamic relationship. He's being completely honest. And God's response is just perfect. He doesn't give him a lecture. He gives him an experience. He takes Abram out under this vast, dark night sky and says, hey, try to count the stars. That's how big your family is going to be. It's such a powerful appeal, not to logic, but to imagination. And right here, this is the verse that changes everything. The text says Abram believed God. The original Hebrew word, hayamin. It implies this deep, settled trust. In response, God counted it. The word is shashab, as righteousness. Just think about that. Abram's good standing with God wasn't based on what he did, but on his simple trust in what God promised to do. But even after that incredible moment, Abram is still human. He asks for something a little more concrete. He asks, how can I know? And God's answer isn't another speech. It's one of the absolute strangest and most powerful ceremonies in the entire Bible. A ritual designed to just burn this promise into Abram's memory forever. And again, let's be clear, this isn't faithless doubt. It's a deeply human request for assurance. He's basically asking for an anchor, something he can hold on to when those winds of doubt start to blow again. And who can blame him? So the first thing God does is put Abram into this deep, supernatural sleep, a tardama. And this part is absolutely critical. Abram can't participate. He can't make a promise. He can't mess this up. His only role is to watch what God is about to do. He's completely sidelined for his own covenant ceremony. Then, in the darkness, 2 symbols appear, a smoking fire pot and a flaming torch. This is God himself showing up in a physical form for this incredibly important ceremony. So these symbols then start moving down a path that's lined with sacrificed animals. Now, in the ancient world, this was how you made a binding contract. Both people making the deal would walk this path. It was basically a self-imposed curse, like saying, if I break this promise, may what happened to these animals happen to me. But remember, Abram is asleep. Instead, God alone passes through the pieces. He is taking the entire curse, the entire risk of this agreement, completely onto himself. So what does this strange, dramatic, smoky ceremony all mean? It's establishing the fundamental pattern for a relationship with God, a pattern that is going to echo for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, now fast forward a few centuries. New Testament writers, they look back at this exact moment as the key to understanding everything. They connect Abram's belief being counted as righteousness to the idea that a relationship with God is a gift we get through faith, not something we earn. They saw that promise to bless all nations as proof that God's plan was always meant to be universal. Abram's story wasn't just ancient history, it was the blueprint. And that's really the ultimate takeaway, isn't it? The entire relationship, this bridge between us and God. It's built and it's secured by his commitment, not our own. He's the one who takes the first step. He makes the unbreakable promise, and he takes full responsibility for keeping it. So what this story really does is present a radical shift in perspective. It moves the focus from what we must do for God to what God has already promised to do for us. And that leaves us with a pretty challenging question. In a world that demands proof and evidence for everything, what does it really mean to live by promise instead,